Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Leanna if you're new. That's right, I'm talking about Asians in American media again, which I know a lot of people like when I do, so I'm excited to spark a conversation today. Now, the specific thing that gave me the idea for today's video is the song Baby I'm Jealous by Bebe Rexha, or specifically its music video. If you don't know who Bebe Rexha is, she is an American singer. Personally, I've only heard one of her other songs, and to be honest, the only reason I wanted to see this video is because Doja Cat's in it, and I'm obsessed with her, naturally. It's a good song, you know, Bebe is very talented. But alas, you know, the goodness of the song is not what we're going to be talking about today. So this music video tells a story, as a music video usually does. Bebe and her friends are sitting in what I'm assuming is a Chinese restaurant, and they're talking about how cool it would be to time travel to the 60s, the 19th century, 10,000 BC, and even to the dawn of creation. And that's when the mysterious Chinese waitress comes in with a single fortune cookie on a plate. And we know where this is going, right? And so Bebe is just like, oh no, you know, we're not done yet, you know, maybe after the check. And the waitress doesn't say anything and just insists on giving her this cookie. So Bebe just smiles awkwardly and takes it, cracks it open, and she's transported back in time, and the time traveling is basically the rest of the music video. You know, personally, I'm a sucker for time travel. I really love time travel movies. I think it's a cool concept, but we need to talk about this Chinese waitress lady. So, what I see here is 1. Racial stereotyping. There's a kooky Chinese restaurant owner and she can't speak English, yada yada yada. You know, we've all seen that before. And 2, perhaps more interestingly, exoticism. Exoticism, as defined by encyclopedia.com, describes a cultural phenomenon that projects Western fantasies about profound cultural differences. It adopts a cultural perspective that is firmly entrenched in the conventions and belief systems of Western civilization and therefore constructs the East as the archetypical location of otherness. Now, before we get really down and dirty into this, I just want to say no hate towards Bebe Rexha at all. I think when it comes to coming up with ideas and concepts for music videos, there's more than likely an entire team of people who are responsible for coming up with and executing those ideas. So I don't think blaming the artist for something like this is the right thing to do. You know, if we're looking for something to blame, let's just blame ignorance, the lack of good Asian representation, and a system that normalizes racism and stereotyping of Asian people. There are a lot of people responsible for those things. I can't even begin to list them. It's hard to pinpoint, you know? Just based on this video alone, I don't think it's appropriate to call Bebe a racist or anything. Maybe a little culturally insensitive. I did want to mention that she tweeted this out recently, which I really appreciated. Of course, you can't really tell everything by just a tweet, but it at least shows good intentions and awareness of what's going on right now with all the hate crimes, which is more than I can say for a lot of people and celebrities. There are just some celebrities who just aren't saying anything. I don't think she or her team really had any malicious intentions. I've noticed that a lot of the time when it comes to appropriating Asian culture or making racist jokes against Asians specifically, nobody really understands the weight of it, like with Jay Leno, who recently apologized for his years and years of making fun of Asian people, and he said that he thought it to be harmless, and also with Steve Harvey saying that nobody likes Asian guys, you know, all those years ago, and him literally thinking that was an okay thing to say. For years and years, Asian Americans have been the butt of a lot of inappropriate and offensive jokes, and for the most part, we've just taken it, because a lot of us are taught to believe that there is a certain privilege that comes with our perceived proximity to whiteness, because of the model minority myth. And we're always told that we don't have it as bad as other people of color, when in reality all people of color are victims of white supremacy. I talked a little bit about this in my last Asian representation video, which I'll link down below if you haven't seen that one yet. But as I was saying, even when it comes to much worse things than jokes like hate crimes, a lot of Asian people, especially elderly Asian people, tend to keep quiet and not report it to the police for a couple reasons. Because there's a language barrier in place a lot of the times, and also because it's ingrained in Asian culture to not be a bother, to not rock the boat. And the racist people out there committing these heinous crimes are counting on that perceived passiveness, which is actually graciousness, to get away with what they're doing. So with this music video, when I first saw this in October, I kind of turned a blind eye to the part with the Asian lady. There was perhaps a twinge of annoyance that came up inside of me, but I knew this wasn't the first time something like this has happened. You know, this wasn't the first time this trope has been used, and also there are just so many more blatant and explicit instances of racism elsewhere in TV shows and movies, and of course in real life, that this one instance just didn't seem worth it to get into or get mad about. Like, this isn't going to be a hill that I'm going to die on. You know, I got to save my energy. I'm not even going to have a battle on this hill. So I was like, whatever, I got nothing to say. But at the same time, I have always stressed the importance of accurate media representation for Asian American people, because I think ending Asian hate starts with changing how people see us. In this past year, ever since the pandemic started, it's become painfully clear that a lot of people don't think we belong in this country. And I've talked about this before in my other videos, so I won't repeat myself too much. But as I mentioned in my previous Asian representation video, there are literally people in this country who have never seen an Asian person before, and the only exposure they get to Asian American people is what they see on TV and in movies and music videos. I'll be honest, if there was no COVID and no hate crimes, I don't think I'd be making this video. I don't think I would have even talked to anybody about this music video. I would just be like, oh, another instance of less than ideal Asian representation. Oh well, gotta get on with my day. But I'm realizing that now, more than ever, it's important to have these conversations and call out bullshit when I see it. I get that the whole Chinese restaurant fortune cookie thing is a Freaky Friday reference. I just want to say that, and I'll talk about Freaky Friday in a little bit. I kind of feel myself getting a little tense just anticipating people commenting on this video saying that I'm making a big deal out of nothing and that it's just a movie reference, But I promise I'll get to it in a second. See, I'm so used to people shutting me down when I talk about this stuff, and honestly, all the more reason to speak up. Whenever I see instances of cultural appropriation or just stereotyping of Asian people in media, like with this music video and also with Nicki Minaj doing Chun-Li, I go to the comments immediately and I'm looking for just one comment calling out the racism and how fucked it is, but it's usually so hard to find. Everybody else is just like, wow, great video. When I finally do scroll long enough to find that one Asian person who called out the appropriation, there's always a long list of replies telling them that they're making a big deal out of nothing and that their opinion doesn't matter, and it's just so exhausting to see. And that kind of awakened a memory from deep inside my mind. I remember I was a big fan of this book called Cinder by Marissa Meyer, and it's basically a Cinderella retelling in this futuristic dystopian world with cyborgs and everything. And it's set in a place called New Beijing, if I'm remembering correctly. And Cinder's character description was kind of vague, but not that vague. It was implied that she was at least part Asian, and her name was Lin Cinder. L-I-N-H. That's Asian, bro. And I remember being on this Facebook group for the book's fan page. It was a different time, okay? It was 2011. It was perfectly acceptable and normal to be on a book's fan page on Facebook in 2011. And the fan page posted some fan art of Cinder, and she was very white, very Caucasian in the drawing, and 12-year-old me, who saw this character in this book as a very valuable instance of Asian representation, left a comment that asked, isn't she supposed to be Asian? 'Cause yeah, isn't she supposed to be Asian? And within minutes, I have some bitch reply back to me, why would she be Asian? Like, fuck you. Did you even read the book? I was just so pissed because that person was so quick to shut down the idea that this main character of this popular book could be Asian. Like, there was no conceivable way that she could be Asian because that just wouldn't make any sense. Main characters aren't Asian. And I didn't even reply because even at 12 years old, I knew it was pointless to talk to stupid people on Facebook, but that was an instance in which I felt silenced. There's also the possibility that I just grossly misinterpreted the book and Cinder wasn't even Asian, but I'm 95% sure that she was. And come on, New Beijing, she has to be, right? But yeah, that was a bit of a detour. For the most part, the Asian American community, well, we haven't been silent. We've been silenced, maybe, but it was only recently that people started listening. It literally took a mass shooting in Atlanta for mainstream media to start covering these Asian hate crimes. And you know what? I have a small platform, but I'm gonna fucking use it to talk about these things because it's important. And I'll talk and hopefully people will listen. I feel that this whole Freaky Friday Asian restaurant concept contributes to the whole exoticism thing. For Baby I'm Jealous, there's Baby and her group of friends, and then there's the Asian waitress, mysterious, exotic sorceress lady. It just really creates that otherness, that us versus them. Like, Baby and her friends are the ones that we're supposed to relate to as the audience. And then there's the mysterious sorceress waitress lady who doesn't speak and just decides to fuck with them using the magic of the Orient. Magic that isn't understandable and isn't explainable. And I feel like there's an analogy at play here. It's like Asian culture in America is just so hard for people to grasp. There are just so many differences. And instead of trying to understand and accept those differences, a lot of people choose to be ignorant and hate us for those differences. People are afraid of what they don't understand and what they can't conquer. Why didn't she say anything to them? What kind of waitress just comes up to you and gives you a fortune cookie without saying anything? I feel like it's really offensive. When we say we want Asian representation, this isn't what we mean. It may be representation, but it's bad. And not only that, it's boring. Like, how many times have we seen this already? The rapper Lil Dicky and Chris Brown came out with a song called Freaky Friday, and it was more true to the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, first of all, where have you been? But essentially, it's about a mom and daughter switching bodies until they learn to understand each other, emotionally. Essentially, the Freaky Friday video is just Chris Brown and Lil Dicky switching bodies, and that's what the song's about. And of course, it starts out in a Chinese restaurant where Lil Dicky is just like, man, I wish I were a cooler hip-hop artist, and he sees Chris Brown on the TV screen. And then this Asian guy is their waiter, and so when it comes time to order, Lil Dicky is like, between this dish and this dish, which one do you recommend? And the waiter guy just smiles and nods and says, yes. Which I'll admit was kind of funny. In 2003, but like, oh my god, dude, it's so boring at this point. It's the same stereotype over and over. Like, haha, Asians can't speak English. Like, bitch, how many languages do you know? But anyway, the waiter overhears Lil Dicky wishing he was Chris Brown, so he just decides to switch them just to fuck around because what else is an Asian character for except to propel the plot forward for the non-Asian main character? Is it really realistic for a waiter in a restaurant in America to not know how to answer a simple question as which dish do you recommend? It's such a cheap joke. And since we're talking about Freaky Friday, let's talk about Freaky Friday, the 2003 Lindsay Lohan film. Now, I knew this film was a remake of an original older film also called Freaky Friday, and the original was from 1976, and it didn't have any Asians in it. They didn't even go to a Chinese restaurant, so it's not relevant for this video, because God forbid there be any Asian representation in the 70s. Just wanted to say that real quick. So it was actually the 2003 film that did the Chinese restaurant thing first, as far as I know. I'm not even mad at the movie. Honestly, I kind of enjoyed it as a kid, and I still would like to watch it again. I haven't seen it in a while, so there are probably some offensive aspects in it that I just glossed over and normalized in my head as a kid. But you know, the 2000s were a different time. Not saying that stereotypes and racism were ever okay, but at least the Asian characters in that movie were humanized. You know, they had lines, they were people. It was still kind of offensive, though. But, you know, in the 2000s, we got Brenda Song making moves. You know, she was Wendy Wu. We had Mulan 1998 that just came out. What the fuck happened? You know, weren't we supposed to be getting better? How did it get so bad? One would have guessed that we'd be leaving the stereotypes in the early 2000s and things would be much better by now. Why did it take 25 whole ass years since the Joy Luck Club for Hollywood to make another movie with an all-Asian cast? I just don't get it. Why, Hollywood? Why? Frankly, I'm tired of people making fun of Asian people for not speaking English fluently and making fun of the accents because, like, once again, like, bitch, how many languages do you speak? You have to remember that when someone speaks broken English, it's because English is their second language, or maybe even third or fourth or fifth, you know? So get your head out of your own ass and recognize that the world doesn't revolve around English and America. America is just so far up its own ass that it's in its stomach, and its stomach acid is killing its brain cells. That's what I feel. America is so obsessed with itself. Even when it came to that awful show, Emily in Paris, everybody hated it because people said it was like America was sucking its own dick and portraying this horribly inaccurate version of what France was like. They made all the Parisians worship the main character, Emily, who was insufferable. And even if she weren't insufferable, it still wouldn't be realistic because I don't think Parisians even like Americans. That might be a generalization, and I don't want to be like, oh, all French people hate Americans, but, you know, while we're on the topic of that show, Emily had an Asian best friend that would say, like, the most racist shit, but it would seem to be okay because the racist jokes came out of an Asian's mouth. But, like, white people wrote them. Honestly, I didn't see the show. It looks like a fucking disease, but I've seen enough reviews and clips from the show to know that no matter how much I love watching trash sometimes, I will not ever watch that trash. Some trash is just too trashy. But yeah, I think that helps build my case about America being so obsessed with itself. Americans will go to France and be like, parlez-vous anglais? Like, no wonder French people fucking hate us. You know, you don't have French people coming over here like, parlez-vous français? Do you speak French? Because, what? And then you have a bunch of fucking Karens at international airports mad at people behind the help desks for not speaking English. Like, hello? Have you ever paused to ask yourself why you don't speak their language? Like, can you imagine the audacity you have to go to a foreign country and then expect everyone around you to accommodate you? Like, bruh, the world doesn't revolve around you. Not only that, our education is very Eurocentric. I was always learning about so-and-so European colonizing this place, and thanks for your corn, here's some syphilis. God, that is just a whole other conversation that I cannot get into right now, but I would love to sometime. I think we're getting a little off topic. Essentially, in America, there is this separation between people of Asian descent and everybody else. Just to list a few mild examples, there's, ooh, your English is so good. Where are you really from? oh, you're so exotic, you know? Asian racism has always existed. There was the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, of course there were the Japanese internment camps, and so many more instances in America's history that I don't feel confident in being able to name them all, and now with this hatred that has come up because of COVID-19 and people blaming Asians for COVID, it is so important to not entertain these stereotypes anymore, and to speak up when we see some shit like this. You know, we need to start working on closing that rift that's been created from years and years and years and years of exclusion and ignorance. To me, what I saw in Bebe Rexha's video and Lil Dicky's video was along the same line of seeing a weak, docile Asian female lead in a kung fu film with a white main character. And if you've seen my first Asian representation video, you already know how I feel about that. I hate it, if you didn't know. Honestly, I'm very tired. The hate crimes are still very much going on. It seems like every day there's something else. Every day there's news that somebody got beaten, murdered, spit on, yelled at, shot, stabbed. I'm very tired, and I'm angry, but also tired of being angry, and I'm scared. Still, more than ever before, the Asian American community needs your allyship, and we can dismantle white supremacy together. So please, be an ally, educate yourself, make sure you know what's going on, raise awareness, talk to your family about it, call out racism when you see it. So that's pretty much all I had to say for this video. I hope I was able to articulate my thoughts clearly in a non-confusing way. Let me know what you thought of it. My question for you is, what do you think of Bebe Rexha's video? Do you think the whole Freaky Friday Chinese restaurant thing is offensive? Am I making a big deal out of nothing? I was asking myself, what would I have rather seen in this video that would have been less offensive? Because I don't want to be somebody who just complains and doesn't offer concrete examples of possible solutions. I would say that I would have liked to see the video not use Asian aesthetics. If you're not even going to give the Asian lady any lines or like incorporate anything about Asian culture whatsoever, you know, like we couldn't even see the food they were eating. Honestly, I'd rather that they hadn't been at a Chinese restaurant at all, because what's the point, you know? If you don't know how to do it right, then don't do it. But yeah, that's how I feel. How do you feel? What do you think might have been better and less offensive? And of course, once again, is it offensive at all to begin with? And lastly, do you think I missed anything in this video? Let me know what you think, because this is a conversation, so let's talk. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!